Hello YouTube, and welcome to the first installment of the Radio Shop Short Takes. Decided for 2022 I would start doing some short videos to use as fillers in between other videos. That way keep everyone entertained, keep some videos coming out, and try to, produce more content for 2022. So in this video, let's say you went out and you bought yourself a Pioneer stereo. Now I know I don't do a lot of stereo repair on this channel, but I do it in the background. And this is the model SX636. It's not a bad little system. It's not a powerhouse. You can pick these up pretty cheap. I see them on eBay quite often between 40 and 60 bucks. But if you went out and bought one, there's a few things that you need to look at before you even start powering this thing up, hoping it's going to work. Now, again, these are no powerhouse, but they were good little stereo receivers. They do have some issues, and depending on how much money you want to put into one, a lot of people just buy them and play them till they quit and toss them out. But being I like vintage equipment, I like to try to keep things like this going. Now we can put way more money into this thing than what it's even worth, or what you can get for it. I have seen one guy said he gets, after he rebuilds them, he sells them for 175 bucks. Now you're looking at a receiver after it's rebuilt will probably last you 10-15 years. I mean, it's just hard to beat that. But like I say, this model was introduced in 1976, so it's what, 40 years old or so. So let's take a look at a few things that need to be done before you even try to put this thing into service and use it. Now I gave this thing a blow down and pretty much a wipe out. I haven't done a thorough cleaning on it yet. There is a little bit of corrosion here and there on the chassis, and there's not a whole lot you can do about that but just stop the corrosion. Here in the middle there's some corrosion. It looks like something was probably spilled in the vent top of the unit. You can see a little corrosion there. Also down here on the right hand side of the amplifier board, you can see some corrosion here. So one of the first things you can do is check to see if there's any DC voltage on the speaker jacks. And we'll go here on speaker A. We'll connect our test leads to the left hand channel. I've got the meter set for DC, and we'll power the unit up, and you can see we're getting a negative voltage, so there's no positive voltage on the left channel. Now we'll go over here to the right channel, and it looks like about 2.1 millivolts. We'll drop down to speaker bank B, and it's about 1.5 millivolts. We'll jump over to left side of B, and you can see that channel is a little higher. We're looking at about 14.2, maybe 14.3 millivolts. And for those just asking how am doing this, you can see I'm just connecting across the output speaker terminals. So another issue you want to look out for. Now you can go ahead and carpet bomb this whole thing and replace all the electrolytics if you want to spend that kind of money on it. But the main electrolytics that gives problem in these sets, here on the power supply board there's 3 220 microfarad electrolytics at 50 volts, and these are known for leaking real bad. In fact, I can see some spots on the board here where it looks like they have leaked. Those need to be replaced right to start with. They can cause a lot of issues in this power supply board. In fact, they will start causing the unit to hum. So these three, if you don't replace any other thing on this power supply board, always replace these three. Now again, this thing is 40 years old, but I have never seen the two main filter caps in this receiver go bad. In fact, every ones I ever seen, I've checked them, and they've always checked good. These are some pretty high quality capacitors. But down here on the main radio tuner board, you'll see some little blue caps. There's 3 here, there's 1 here, and there's 2 here. Those need to be changed out. Don't even worry about testing them, just go ahead and change them. These are old Sanyu caps, and even after a year in service, these capacitors started causing issues in the board. So we got 6 on this board. So over here on the amplifier board, there are 2 that definitely need to be replaced. So why do these capacitors last so good? Nippon Chemicon, they are great capacitors, and if they check good, I see no reason to replace those capacitors. I went ahead and poured the 3 caps out of the power supply and checking them, and surprisingly, other than being a little high, they're not too bad. And checking with the Atlas, 256.5, so very close to the BK Precision, and the ESR is 0.11 ohms. So basically, by checking those 3 caps, what this pretty much tells me about this unit, this is a low hour unit, because I have not seen one before that these 3 caps were not bad. And what I thought was leaking looks more like the glue that they used up here to hold the capacitors in. They got a little messy with it putting it in. It's important not to have voltage on the speaker output terminals. And what causes it? Well, when you have DC voltage on the speaker output jacks, it'll cause distortion. Imagine the cone in the speaker, it moves back and forth. Especially when, you know, it hits a lot of bass, it'll move a lot. If you got voltage on this output jacks, what it can do is cause the core, either, you know, the voice core, to either be pushed out and stopped and it won't move, or sucked all the way in and stopped and won't move. So that causes distortion. So what causes the DC voltage? There's several factors. Depending on how high the voltage is, will tell you more. Like if you got minus 36 volts or a very high rail voltage on the jack, you can pretty sure that the output transistors are shorted. If it's a smaller voltage, like 6 to 12 volts, probably going to be your driver transistors have shorted, and that's letting the voltage go through. And in our case, you see there was one that was way up high in the millivolt range. What causes that is coupling capacitors. Coupling capacitors can leak and allow DC voltage to go through. As you know, a capacitor should let AC signals go through but block DC, and that's probably what we have going on here. Is some capacitors are leaking, and that's allowing some DC voltage to go through. Like you saw, it wasn't very much. 20 millivolts would be very acceptable, but you see in some of the cases on this one, it was a little bit higher. So what I need to do is sit down and make a list of capacitors and go ahead and order them and get them in this system, then do a complete alignment on it, and that should take care of all the other problems that it has. The main issue with this unit was it was very intermittent when I first checked it out, and the reason being was solder joints. You could tap it and the FM would come in and out. The AM worked okay, but what I found on the tuner board was bad solder joints. So I got those taken care of, and the radio now works. So only thing that's got to be done now is just change out parts for preventive maintenance, because you know, these, like I say, these caps are 40 years old. You know they're going to fail. I already know that these blue caps are probably already failed and causing sensitivity levels inside the radio unit. So guys, one of the other things you need to do is clean all the controls. And you know, when you're working on potentiometers on something like this, I would suggest using something like deoxit fader for cleaning these controls. Now regular potentiometers, you know, that you find in other things, it doesn't really matter. But when it comes to audio gear, deoxit fader works real good at cleaning those potentiometers. And one of the reasons for that is, even in Pioneer, the Japanese company that made this, the potentiometers in this has a very thin carbon film on the potentiometer, and some cleaners will remove a lot of that film, that carbon track, and eat it away. Then you end up having to replace the potentiometers. Anyway, I got a parts list already together for the capacitors for this, and I'm going to go ahead and order those and get this recapped, and then clean this unit up and get it back to the owner that it belongs to. And another thing, you know, when you've got this aluminum trim with wood, if you notice, I put masking tape around it. That's to keep from scarring it up on the bench. Anyway guys, I hope these little short tips will be something that y'all can learn from, and I hope that y'all enjoy them. As always, you know, leave your comments down below, let me know, and we'll get a lot more of this going here in 2022. Anyway, off now to start a Patreon video. So I hope everyone had a happy new year and a great Christmas, and guys, we'll see you in the next video. Bye now.